Good morning, students. This is Ms. Tittle, and today we're going to be talking about our Lesson 7 exploration activity. We always save our exploration activity for the end of our unit, and this exploration activity is going to be about vertebrate animals. So the first step that you took was to click on the Getting Started for Topic Selection. And for topic selection, you're going to pick one vertebrate animal from the list. And so, as you can see, there's several lists. There's a couple of pages of mammals. Then there is a page of birds, a page that has reptiles, and a page that has amphibians, and then lastly a page that has fish. So pick one animal, one vertebrate animal from the lists, and then you're going to comment your topic in the comment section. And this is first come, first served. So whoever picks the animal first gets to do that animal for their research project. So make sure you check to see what other students have chosen so that you don't choose the same thing. Okay, now let's go to the next step. After topic selection, your next step is to start your research. On the first day of our research, on Monday, March the 1st, you're going to be researching about the animal's body features. So you're going to read Animals with Backbones on page 100 to 101 in the textbook. And then you're going to think about if the animal you chose was one of the 5 classes of vertebrates. Was your animal a mammal, a bird, a reptile, an amphibian, or a fish? And then as you research and read about your animal online, you're going to choose 5 of its body features to focus on. These 5 features should be unique to your animal and should help enhance its daily life activities in some way. So I'm going to give you an example of that. If you'll look down at the picture that's on this page, you will see that we're using humans as an example. And in this case, they chose hair, the brain, the outer ear, the teeth, and the joints of the body as the specialized body features they focused on. And for each one, they gave examples of why that particular body feature is important to the animal. What does it do to help the animal? For each one of these, you can read and see that they have focused on things that are special features that help that animal in some way. They help to enhance its abilities or make its daily life better in some way. It might even, for some of the animals, be things that help to ensure that they get to reproduce and pass on their traits to their offspring. Okay, you'll notice that the Google search engine and your textbook are both linked here. You can use those in your reading and in your search. And then you'll open your assignment with Cami, and this is where you'll collect the information as you research. So you'll write down the common name and the scientific name of your vertebrate animal. Remember, the scientific name is its genus and species names. Then you will choose 5 body structures, and there is a box on the sheet for each one of the structures. So pick each structure and then tell about its function, why it's important in each one of the boxes. Make sure you keep track of all of the websites that you use. Google is not a website. Google is a search engine. So when you use Google to research your animal, make sure that you keep track of any of the websites you use. And let me show you an example of that. If we go back to the research assignment and go to Google, if I typed in the African elephant as an example, then Google was not my website that I use. If I was using information from worldwildlife.org, then I would need to cite worldwildlife.org. And so if I went to that website, then I would find information about the African elephant. You can find all kinds of facts and things about your animal there, sometimes videos and things that might be helpful. But remember, Google was not my website source, my source that I might have got some information from would be any of these websites that I use to get information. And I would prefer that you not use Wikipedia unless it's a last resort. But there should be all kinds of information on the internet about your animal. Make sure you use reliable sources. And that's why we wouldn't use Wikipedia, because it's not always the most reliable source. So you can use videos, you can use websites. Just make sure you keep track of all the websites that you use. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the next stage of your research, which is research part 2. Research part 2 will be done on Tuesday, March the 2nd. On Tuesday, March the 2nd, you will read Habitats as Homes. And on this part of the research, you're going to be focusing on the organism's habitat. You're going to be focusing on the ecosystem that it's a part of, its habitat, and how it interacts with both the biotic or living parts of the habitat and the abiotic or non-living parts of the habitat. And so again, here I have linked for you the textbook and Google. But also you'll open your assignment with Cami, and you'll have your research sheets where you gather your information. So the habitat's abiotic factors are about the non-living parts of the habitat that the animal lives in. So again, if African elephant is my animal that I'm doing research on, then for this part of my research, I'll be focused on the African elephant's habitat. We want to know the temperature range, which means the general climate temperature range for that habitat or ecosystem, how much precipitation that area usually gets, what kind of water supply is there, are there rivers, lakes, streams, ocean, how much water does the elephant require in its habitat. Topography would be the type of landforms that are there. Is it a grassland? Is it a mountain? Is it a desert? What kind of what type of land features are in the habitat? Okay, wind would be another climate factor or weather factor in the habitat. What kind of winds are usually sustained in that type of area? What does that animal use for shelter? Does it build a nesting site or some particular way, a particular place that it likes to give birth and raise its young? How does it escape from predators? Okay, then the other part of its habitat would be the biotic factors, the living parts of its habitat. Does that animal have any predators? Or is it a predator? Does it have prey? What are its food preferences? What does it generally eat? What's in its habitat that it can eat? Is its food supply abundant, or does it have to really search for food? Does it eat just one type of food because there's a lot of it, or does it have to have a variety of food sources because the food may be in short supply? Population density is next, and that just means how many of this particular animal live in this same area together. So what's the population of your animal in that habitat? And then how does it interact with other species? Does it have to compete for shelter? Does it have to compete for other resources? Does it get along with other organisms? Does it live in any symbiotic relationships with other organisms? And then lastly, it's disease. Are there any diseases that affect your animal? Okay, once you have done this, again, you will have collected up all of the different websites that you used to get your information. All of this is not going to be straightforward. You may have to read a little bit about your animal to find some of this information. So after you have finished both research part 1 and research part 2, the last step will be to create your presentation. So if you'll click on Vertebrate Animal and Habitats Presentation, you will be creating this presentation, and it will be due on Wednesday. Okay, when you do, on the assignment, It says for you to open your Google slideshow in My Document, and then you're going to use the information you gathered on your sheets from Part 1 and Part 2 of your research to be the information you're going to use to create your slideshow. And be creative. You can make your slideshow colorful. You can add pictures of your animal and its habitat. Make sure that your slideshow is long enough that you have plenty of slides to cover all of the information that was on Research Part 1 and Research Part 2. There's not a set number of slides. Just make sure that you have enough to cover all of the information. Now, on our rubric, this shows you how you're going to be graded. The quality of your content of your animals, verb or animal's form and function, this part counts up to 25 points. And each time things are not there, 5 points are counted off for each step here. So 25 points possible. You've got to cover at least 5 of the animal's body structures and their functions, and have all of your research references listed on the Works Cited page. Okay, the quality of the content of your animal's habitat. If you went into detail about its biotic and abiotic factors, then that's worth up to 25 points. The presentation design and appearance. If your slideshow is neat and clear and creative and has everything that it needs well organized, then that is up to 25 points. And then lastly, how it would look if we presented it to the class. I will be the one that will be viewing your slideshow, so make sure that your slideshow is turned in on time and that it clearly and effectively communicates all of the required information for this assignment, and that's worth up to 25 points. So the total points possible for this assignment is 100 points. And this will count as a test or project grade, which is a little bit more than what a normal daily grade would count. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure that you message me. When you do click on My Document, it will have a slideshow base that will pull up. I left it blank. I'm leaving it for you to be creative. You can add pictures, you can change the background, the layout, the theme, transitions, however you want to be creative. Just make sure that whatever you put on your slideshow is appropriate for the type of animal that you're doing your research on. Again, if you have any questions, just message me and I'll be glad to help you out. Have a great day.